it's actually kind of a miracle that I got this article out on time.
She was working on it.
So I titled it, J.R.R. Tolkien turns in his grave as Rings of Power cast preaches about representation.
Fact check, true.
So basically, I'm no Lord of the Rings super fan, but I did read all the books as a kid. And I know you said you've seen the Peter Jackson films.
This is what I want to say. I want to preface. I want to preface this with, I've seen them each like one time. I am in no way an authority on Lord of the Rings or Tolkien. There are channels that do almost exclusively Tolkien content that are covering this stuff very, 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 very heavily. What I want to point out is that what I do know is Hollywood hypocrisy, Hollywood vanity, Hollywood self-absorption. That is what this is.
Yeah.
So,
well, what I find shocking about it is a $500 million budget for the first season. You have no idea how it's going to be received.
Two directors,
and what you decide to do is like bludgeon an existing fan base with propaganda and preemptively pose, frame the fan base as a threat to the derivative project that you're making about what they love. That's what shocks me about it, is like the stakes are so high with the investment they've made into this, and they're preemptively ruining it for fans by being this preachy and presumptuous.
I'm going to read the quote from the one that really upset me.
So they interviewed the female cast members of Rings of Power.
Oh, yeah.
And
they looked great.
They called it a group therapy session.
Oh no.
Cynthia Addai Robinson is actually a really great actress. She's also an example of, if you want an example of like when you don't realize that like casting isn't necessarily right, but it works. She was cast as Amanda Waller in the Arrowverse. She looks literally the opposite of what Amanda Waller would look like, which is like Amanda Waller's portrayed as like big and almost intimidating in a way. Like they literally call her the Wall. Like Cynthia Addai Robinson is stick thin at that time, tiny. So she's an example of an actress. She was in the show, I believe, Rome, right? She's a great actress. But in this, in the quote I'm talking about isn't from her. It's from Sophia. What's her name?
It's Nomvete. I think.
I didn't know how to pronounce her name.
She plays the first female dwarf in like a major leading role.
So she says there was no roadmap to be the first female dwarf. Like you could just look at other dwarves and pretend you're not a woman, I guess. But that's just me. So she says there was no real roadmap for her to follow. And although some darker corners of the internet might be unhappy about her character's addition to the story, she isn't backing down. She saw a rare opportunity in the Rings of Power to right a wrong in Tolkien's world and fantasy more broadly. The level of entitlement, the level of social engineering.
She said, there was a real imbalance and I'm excited to be a part of the redress of the balance that is absolutely necessary. No one was originally dissatisfied with your casting. They're dissatisfied with you saying stupid things like this.
This is nothing but critical theory.
No, I'm kind of angry.
All it is.
I'm kind of angry at all of it. Okay.
Yeah, take it away.
The idea here that you don't have a right to tell him that there was something inherently wrong when you are literally standing on the backs of giants.
Right. Like literally.
His work has reached more people than any of these people will ever hope to reach in their lifetimes combined 500,000 times over. Mm-hmm. The level of disrespect being shown to them by saying that his work is inherently wrong is abhorrent.
It's just laughable.
I think it's even worse that he is past and not able to defend his work, not able to speak for what he would have wanted.
How is this not
an expansion upon his creation and a canon that he can't own anymore? He can't even speak for like his own artistic integrity anymore.
They even say that in here.
She says
we couldn't possibly know what he would want.
Morfydd Clark, she plays Galadriel in the new series, And she says Tolkien was a really complex person who wrote a really complex world.
They
and
would
this
hate him.
idea that
They
anyone
would.
could know
So
exactly
much.
what he would have wanted or what he would have liked is, I feel, nonsense.
This is postmodernism. This is
Then your
postmodernism.
job is to adapt the work, not change it.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is actual cultural appropriation.
Yes.
Real
Yeah.
cultural,
100%,
actual.
yep.
They're
Like if
act-
you're
taking
looking
a
at the
world
literal meaning of
of
those
the word,
words.
Yes.
they're taking a culture and an idea and a creation that was done by a
They're
certain person
retrofitting it.
in a certain place at a certain
Yep.
time, and they're changing it to meet their own postmodern needs.
Yeah.
This is disgusting. Like, if they had just made the show and it was ridiculous looking and fine, it's bad, fine,
Whatever.
it's stupid, but
be this
they can't
pretentious.
do this. Is it just a lack of connection with the real world that they don't realize this is a bad idea? Or are they just so insulated from the fallout of if it doesn't work? Like we covered last week, they're going to tell you it's a success no matter what.
Yeah, it's quite possible because, I mean, the way that Jeff Bezos, who I know we all stan, was praising this show, should be sign enough that they're out of touch.
Yeah.
He said that his own son, who is a huge fan of Tolkien and his original works,
Yikes.
came up to him and told him, "Dad, please don't F this up."
Well, he did.
And he said, "We know that this world is important to so many people. We know it's a privilege to work inside this world, and we know it's a big responsibility. But if that were true, if they really appreciated that this is special to anyone, then, you know, wouldn't they respect the source material and also the original author enough to not make it just a way to amplify their pet issues?"
I also want to point out that maybe the most disrespectful part about all of this is they hired 2 first-time showrunners to helm this project.
Yes,
What?
it was.
Highly
The-
disrespectful. W2F.
Yeah, yeah,
There you go.
and he was singing their praises, saying, you know, "I'm so glad I trusted you, and I'm so glad you ignored my comments at exactly the right times."
He's like, yes, I would like for you to debase me further. I'm going to go tonight. And
That's a thing.
I'm going to ask Tim for a raise and a position that I have I'm going to be like, Tim, I want to be
Marketing.
I want to be the head of the marketing department.
There you go.
Well, do you have a history in marketing? Nope. Have you ever run a department of a company before? No. You're hired.
Yeah,
Perfect.
perfect. Yeah. Well, what are your minority?
I mean,
that
I
bonafides?
understand that sometimes hiring unknowns for
No.
projects is like
It's
Marvel. You said,
Because
you know,
Marvel...
it
well,
works
okay.
for Marvel at times.
Because Kevin Feige has a long-term plan and an understanding of the comics that is more important than their ability to make their own movie. The overarching story, or lack of a story now, but their overarching control of the project is Marvel making the movie, not those showrunners. It's a showrunners there to helm the daily duties, get dailies filmed, get them to post-production, but it's a Marvel property. It's all going to feel the same. There should in no way have been newbies doing any part of such a high level, such a high point of the show.
Can I read this quote from Morford
Yes.
Clark, because it's incredible, and I feel like this really summarizes their approach to Tolkien. Tolkien's world is massively about vibes. That's it. That's
What
all you
does
need
that
to know.
mean?
That means nothing. All of that is millennial drivel. This is a
Postmodern
32-year-old.
bullshit.
Why
Give me a
did-
break.
all we have left are vibes. Everything else has been thrown in the
Stripped
trash.
it out.
Like, we don't
the
want to
soul is
only
gone,
have
yeah.
vibes
Do I-
and have like only ephemeral
Exactly. That's the word I was
feelings
thinking of.
about
Yeah.
things.
Do we get to go to other do we get to go to China now and influence their box office and be like, there's an imbalance here. We
Yeah.
want to be in your
We've
movies.
noticed an imbalance in your advertising.
You're not casting
Let's
enough
go.
white Americans.
I want to go. I demand
Yes.
we go. Does anybody go to Jordan Peele and say there's an imbalance here? Does anyone go to Tyler Perry? There's an imbalance
Guys.
here.
And they'd be like,
No.
screw off.
Nigeria
And
just
they should. They should make the
'Cause it's
stuff
their
they
thing.
want to make. It's their thing. And the problem here is we're like, when I think you're right. When they're dead, no touching it. Leave it alone.
I really think it's unethical and it lacks integrity to take a dead person's creation and then make
That's a
make
low
things
blow.
that are derivative of it and add it to their canon.
Yep.
I hate it.
And I
And
think
it
the
doesn't reflect any of his values.
No.
He actually had some very
If he
serious
were alive
values.
today,
they would
they
freaking
would-
hate him.
They would hate him.
He
Call him
would
a
be
Nazi.
the J.K. Rowling of his own
On
own
steroids.
books.
Yeah.
On
my
steroids,
gosh.
even.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think the reason this stuff angers me so much, like I said, it's from a place of like, I don't know a ton about the source material. I've seen the movies, but I know when something's being cannibalized for purposes that have
Yeah.
nothing to do with actually being loyal to
'Cause you
the
can't
source
disguise
material.
that.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't fake it. So I don't fault any of these channels that are just mortified watching this stuff happen. And the sad thing is, whether people want to admit it or not, this is what has been happening to the comic book franchises for a decade.
Maybe this will open people's eyes.
No,
They'll be like,
I-
holy crap, if it can happen to Lord of the Rings,
Yeah.
it's probably
And
happening everywhere.
It should have been enough of a red flag that they shut out Peter Jackson from even having
Yeah.
comment on the
Yes.
script. Not
Yeah.
even being a script writer, but
He
just
did good
giving
work.
some input behind, like in their developing stages. He was shut out, and they stopped communication with him. Now that's supposedly because of legal reasons. They want the movies and the show to be completely separate artistic works.
Sure.
I understand that, but it's then you're like, you're called upon to make something that's equally loved
Yep.
as the trilogy that Peter Jackson made. And that is not going to happen because they're going for mass appeal.
And the only way that will happen now is with it worked with Lord of the Rings. It kind of worked with Harry Potter. It will never again happen with any property that has any level of cultural relevance, because the only time that they're allowed to make something close to the source material is if only a small amount of people care about it. Terminalist was allowed to be close to the source material. Reacher
Yeah.
was allowed to be close to the source material because
If the source material is relatively unknown, there's nothing to ruin.
right.
and there's no benefit to, you're not changing the culture there. They're not going to change 45-year-old MAGA dads opinions on the military or on diversity and representation, but they can absolutely change the minds of all of the young people who are reading Tolkien or love Lord of the Rings. So it's literally cultural, it's cannibalism. They're cannibalizing various works of art and things that are important to Western society.
So Tim calls this, I wouldn't call it cannibalism, and I certainly wouldn't say literally, because that really means they're like actually eating corpses or whatever. But Tim compares it to wearing like a skin suit of something that once was. So you take this great institution and you just put it on over your own clothes, and then that's what you are.
Yes.
I guess it's a lie and everyone knows it, and it's fake and weak, but they just go with it because why not? Makes money. Weak.
How do you make money on this? It cost $1 billion. They spent $1 billion to buy this property. How do you make money on
I
this?
don't want. Okay, to everyone.
Yeah, I
who's
forgot
watching
to
this,
mention $250 million to the estate for the rights to make this show, on top of the $500 million.
they should have paid
budget.
more. The way these women alone are insulting his freaking legacy. Can I just say, I don't want people to hate watch this. I don't want them to make their money back on
we're
this.
going to.
The
All right,
women-
fine.
the-
I guess
the-
you
Sorry.
can. I don't want people
I have
to,
been
though.
I have been roped into this.
No.
The women on the
My
show
fault.
have such agency.
Like,
Oh,
they're
Brett, his eyes
saying
have rolled out of
that
his
with
head.
the assumption that anything else derivative of Tolkien would rob women of their agency in
Not
the
even
story,
close.
which was never true. Galadriel, played by Kate Blanchett,
She's one of the most
was a powerful female
characters, yeah.
character. Why are you claiming otherwise?
The
You want to pretend that you're like revolutionizing the story in some way?
every time I read through this article, I found another thing that annoyed.
You got angry.
It never stops.
Whether
Yeah.
as the buzzwords mounted, and then finally it gets to when it's the 42-year-old actress and activist. I'm like, oh, there it is.
there
The
it is. I'm out.
editorializing is insane. This isn't even a quote from one of the actresses, but they said that the worst of Tolkien's fandom has already begun complaining about the series' foregrounding of female characters and the fact that non-white actors have been cast in roles beyond villains and orcs.
Which is
Okay. That doesn't even bear comment.
The women,
I'm out.
the
Like
women,
the preemptive villainizing of the fans
guys-
is what gets me the most.
Mary, there's a meme going around of there's someone who's up on a table and they're crouching over a plate, and someone's like, "Why are you pooping on my plate?" And the person's
yeah.
like, "How do you know it's poop? It's not even out yet." Like, what are you talking about? We all know exactly what this is gonna be like.
Thank
you can
you
read
again.
this. Yeah, I was like, "What? That's the best meme ever." Yes, thank you for this crisis party. Let's dye Brett's hair. Woo!
the women on the show have such agency.
I'm
She
so
said
proud of them.
they're not serving the
Oh,
storylines
boy.
of the men around them. This is it's mental illness. Okay, it has
Yeah,
to
it
be.
is. It is.
To look at to look at the world through such a, what would the word for it? How would
it's
you?
It's so myopic.
To look at it through that type of intersectional lens,
a critical
theorist lens, all the time through
it's
everything,
exhausting.
because that's what they want. They want you to analyze it, and in a lot of ways, I'm a victim. Like I've fallen victim myself, allowing myself to get annoyed by this stuff. Like I'm responsible for my own actions, and I still get annoyed. Like I'm annoyed that I get annoyed by this stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I'm annoyed.
Then you're annoyed that you're annoyed. And then
that I can't. I have in a way victimized myself. Nobody else is making me do this, but I've found it harder to get through this stuff than I used to without it annoying me.
But
more.
it gets so loud that you kind of have to respond, especially in our position.
And it's the people who hate watch stuff, I don't know how they do it. Like
I couldn't.
The channels
probably
like
a lot of drugs.
No.
I'm just saying alcohol.
I hate watch some things, but what I don't do is watch things I know are mediocre, not because I hate them, but just like if I'm trying to appreciate something and it's just bad.
Yeah.
Like that's not hate watching. I'm just
watching
being disappointed.
You're choosing to watch it.
Prey.
And it's sad.
I wasn't hate watching Prey. I just thought it sucked.
I wasn't either. Yeah.
I tried. Like I can't hate watch because I just turn it off.
Yeah, there's so bad it's good about Prey.
Yeah,
no. Like all the stuff that I like that's so bad it's good is so bad it's good in a campy, partisan way.
Like really good.
Yeah. Like
Blood and Honey. I believe it.
Looking forward to
that.
that.
It's gonna be freaking awesome. So, like I said, I am
also. I want to bring up this quote from an executive producer of Rings of Power. She told Time magazine, "We're all up for criticism. We're not up for racism." Here's the problem: you frame all of the criticism as racism before the criticism is even aimed at you.
Pretty clever.
And that is done instantly on purpose.
Of course.
That is
done
it's
the
by
ultimate
design.
shield. Yeah.
I hate it.
It's
hate these
they love
people.
it. It's the same. It's the same stuff with Lord of the Rings. It's the same stuff with Moses Ingram and Star Wars. It is the go-to. It is the go-to line.
You know what's interesting to me is that is not going to work forever, and I'm genuinely curious what they're going to come up with next.
After telling critics to shut the f up, how do you pronounce her name?
Morphid.
Clark now claims that she was surprised by Galadriel's depiction in Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power. And then she goes down, they posted her saying, like, anyone sending hate to my black castmates, get off my page, get off the internet and shut up. What I want to know is...
Same thing as Moses Ingram.
Yes.
Same thing.
Yep.
It never was real.
So is it hate
They're
because...
astroturfing racism.
Is it hate because it's addressed at somebody who just happens to be African American, or is it hate because they hate the? Do you understand what I'm saying?
This is how they do it. All of the hate becomes racism when it's something that they don't want to hear. It's Michael Scott. That's not a hate crime, Michael. Well, I hated it very much. Yeah, that's a hate crime to them.
So you're just immune from criticism.
Yes, you
and
are.
Here's the thing. It's really funny. My dad predicted this 10 he goes, as soon as they started creating protected classes, he goes, it's going to create resentment because people will feel like you can't be there's nothing people hate more than somebody who you feel like you can't be criticized. And if you want to know who's in power, look to the people who can't be criticized.
I've heard that has a terrible source, but I'm kind of inclined to agree, especially with his social justice twist, because it's like there are people who are flawed human beings and you can't say anything about them. That's not fair. That's not a truly equal society. You want equity, you want inclusion and diversity. Everyone needs to be open to criticism.
I still think a huge part of the problem is a lot of people just not understanding that there's a difference between equity and equality.
Of course,
like they just
conflate it. That's what they do. They
so
conflate
many
everything.
of the equal outcomes that they want could be reached if we just were able to talk unrestrained.
Right.
Also, I want to point out something. Matthew Dixon in the super chat said African British. I meant to say just black, but I didn't know. I didn't know if where the actress was from. But that is my mistake. Do you want to go to super chats?
Sure.
Before we blow a gasket.
Yeah.
Isn't it weird how something where you're not even super invested in the source material, you're invested in what that source material has meant for the culture that you're part of, right?
Yes.
Like you don't have to. It's kind of like when they talk. There was a quote in an old skate video where they talk about you didn't have to understand why Michael Jordan was as influential as he was. You just knew that he was because of the impact he had on society.
Right.
You don't have to understand basketball or understand Michael Jordan to understand why he made the impact that he did.
That is a household
thing. The same kind of
goes
goes with things like this. It's like they take things that they know have made cultural impact, and then they strip mine it for whatever points they can on their scale of social reparations. It's very strange.
Even though House of the Dragon is doing well, I think it's still doing that. It's still siphoning off of the success of Game of Thrones.
Of course.
And I hope that at least overshadows. Yes. I hope that the success of House of the Dragon will overshadow
horrible
Rings of Power enough that they don't make their money back, because this was a huge investment for them, and I genuinely hope that they don't make it back.
Maybe that's what it is. I don't even hate House of the Dragon, but I will hate watch it so that I don't have to watch Lord of the Rings.
Given a choice.
Like if I had to choose between the two, I'm taking House of the Dragon.
Joe Rogan really liked House of the Dragon, which to me is a great indicator that's probably pretty good.
I'm halfway through episode 2. I thought episode 1 was fine, but even they weren't immune to the abortion scene in this episode is our statement on Roe v. Wade. I'm like, bro, you made this episode a year ago.
You don't know.
You did not film this when this happened. Don't stop. Quit lying, Craig. That's what it is. I was like, you're just virtue signaling, dude. We can, nobody's that stupid. Nobody thinks you shot this 2 months ago.
They know. They don't care.
Thanks for watching this clip, guys. If you want to see full episodes or follow us on social media, links are in the description below. Bye.